There are no moderate Democrats in this country. Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden are supposed to be our choices for the not far left candidates, but even they are further left to where Barack Obama was. And the best example, well, we have two, is Pete Buttigieg vowing to open up Obamacare to illegal immigrants and Joe Biden apologizing for the Obama administration policy on immigration. As many of you may be aware, Barack Obama was called the deporter in chief, deporting, I think, nearly 3 million people. Well, now that Joe Biden is trying to run for the president, I don't actually think he is, but now that he's, in that position, he's actually apologizing, saying, we shouldn't have done it. Yeah, dude. There's no moderate position. It was only 4 years ago that Barack Obama was stronger on the borders and said no to a lot of this stuff. Now, let's be real. Barack Obama instituted DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, I think it's called, something like that. These are the dreamers. These are young people who came to this country. They had no idea what was going on. And now they grew up here and they live here and they're told they don't have legal status. For me, I actually sympathize with this. And I want to clarify something, too, because I was reading this article from Breitbart. It says, Pete Buttigieg vows to open up Obamacare to illegal immigrants. We have another story. Buttigieg tells illegal immigrants that America is your country, too, in Spanish. The important distinction between, in these stories, it's not being presented by the Examiner and Breitbart, though they are the truth. He's talking about dreamers, not somebody who just wandered across the border yesterday. He's talking about young people who grew up here and were brought here by their parents. I think their parents broke the law. I think their parents should be deported. I don't think, they can apply for legal status and do what they need to do. I'm not a big fan necessarily of DACA. But I understand you've got to draw a line at some point. So we'll read these stories because I definitely want to get to the point of, the Democrats just going further and further left. But I first want to make sure it's clear. He's talking about giving healthcare to dreamers if they pay for it. There's a big difference between, giving government funded healthcare, taxpayer funded healthcare to any illegal immigrant and somebody who's here and literally says, here's $20. I would like healthcare in exchange. That makes sense. The challenge is where we draw the line on immigration. It seems like every single time Democrats propose some change on immigration, their line of what is reasonable keeps moving. Now, there's got to be a hard stop. I think it was Jordan Peterson who talks about how the left never doesn't know how far is too far. And so Republicans have their line on the far right. They say, no, that's too much, and they're willing to get rid of somebody. The Democrats will say, we need DACA. After DACA, they say, we need to decriminalize border crossings. We need to, put a moratorium on deportations. No, stop, dude. DACA is the compromise. I'm not happy that these kids were brought here. I think their parents did wrong. But I also think it's absurd that someone could grow up in this country and then be like, what am I supposed to do? I don't even know anybody in Mexico or Honduras or Guatemala or wherever they came from. So in that regard, I begrudgingly say it's time for a solution and a compromise. And that means first, we need to secure the borders. We need to stop the flow of illegal immigration. Then we can talk about how we can help these kids. So deferring deportation or action, I think, is fair. If they want to pay into a public option that they literally have to pay for, that's very, very different from what we see in California, where you could walk across the border and if you're under 26, you get access to health care. But the point is, this is still them encroaching that line. It's a big step from what Obama was proposing. If Obama wasn't going to give them Obamacare, but he was going to defer action. And now Pete Buttigieg is saying, no, we will give you Obamacare. And you are a part of this country and, all of that good stuff. You can see the line for the left just keeps moving. I have no problem taking the moderate position of, naturalization, a path to naturalization for dreamers, because I recognize the circumstances. And these are people who grew up and lived in America. I can respect that. But there's got to be a hard line. And I don't know how you do it, because the fear is if you give in, they'll just keep pushing. Doesn't happen on the right for whatever reason, but let's read. Breitbart says, former Mayor Pete Buttigieg promised an illegal immigrant on Sunday they would have taxpayer-funded health care if he was elected president. As you know, the Affordable Care Act, one of many missing pieces that it has is that the exchanges are not available to the undocumented. Yeah, and I would change that. And that would be a change that would come with the Medicare for All Who Want It plan I'm proposing. But I'll tell you this. He's basically saying it's not a mandatory pay program that everyone would be involved in. It's Medicare for All Who Want It, meaning these people would have to pay into that system. That's my understanding. If that's not the case, then I'm completely opposed to it. But my general understanding of the public option is that you can choose to pay for a private health insurer or you can choose to pay more to the government program. I'm not a big fan or confident in that government program, but I do see that as a compromise. And sure, maybe that's something that'll appease the far left. It won't, because they always come crawling back for more. But the point is, he's talking specifically about DACA recipients. Look, man, if you've got somebody who came here at 6 years old, they grew up here and they need health care, what are you going to do? Do we just have them be second-class citizens? I'm not a fan of that. And the big problem I have with the current Democrats' position on all of this, including the DACA stuff, is that they want to decriminalize border crossing, stop deportations, and essentially create a serf class of people who can't get access to benefits and who are going to work for below minimum wage because these companies have no reason to report them. And even if they did, they wouldn't be deported anyway. So then American citizens are the first class citizens who get access to all these benefits, and the second class citizens cross the border illegally. And that's what the Democrats would create with this system. There's another story where Buttigieg tells illegal immigrants that America is your country too. But it's important to point out he's talking about dreamers. Now, is it fair to call dreamers illegal immigrants? Yes, 100%. But their parents take the blame. That's the way I see it. I don't like that their parents did this, but at a certain point, it's like, dude, I do not like illegal immigration, okay? Immigration is a good thing, general immigration. The Democrats like to differentiate, the Democrats like to not differentiate and act like immigration and illegal immigration are the exact same thing because they're all basically far left. That's not fair. Dreamers are undocumented. They are illegal immigrants. Some of them actually flaunt their status, and that to me is disgusting. You are here in a precarious position based on our good graces. I am not a fan of classism. I am not a fan of dragging these people or being mean. But some of these people like to gloat about how they're going to school, they're undocumented, and all these things. They're getting access to public benefits. They're using our resources. I'm not a fan of that. You're not contributing to what we're putting together. And let me explain. If we fund the roads, I love the roads because the libertarians love bringing it up, and you walk on that road and didn't pay for it, we have to pay for the damage that, actually, I'll give this example. Let's say you live in a house and there's a creek behind your house. So you build a little bridge. You pay for the materials. You do the labor. One day, some random person walks across it. Now it's got wear and tear. You tell people, hey, please don't walk across my bridge. You're going to break it. And they say, you can't stop me. Eventually, you have people illegally crossing your bridge and you have to pay to repair it. They aren't contributing, but they are using your resources. What a lot of people don't understand is that we pay for plumbing, we pay for infrastructure, we pay for roads. These things break down over time. So that includes dreamers who came here illegally, but were underage for the most part. So here's the compromise I come to. Okay, fine. The parents, you're responsible for this. That was illegal. You've got to pay a penalty. You've got to be, deported, whatever the system decides. I certainly think we can do this in a humane manner. The young people, if you so choose, all right. You've been here most of your life. We'll figure this out. I can respect that. But the problem I see with this and where it gets disconcerting to me is that I think even then they're going to keep pushing that line. I don't think there's necessarily a right approach to this because the line will always move, and you don't want to create a pulling effect where if you do grant amnesty or naturalization, then you end up with more people trying to rush to the border like we saw with all the caravans. Immigration controls are important, extremely important, to make sure the economy isn't being threatened and, we can sustain the system and properly place people. If we just allow people to come and do this nonstop, it gets worse. So while I'll put it this way, I begrudgingly accept dreamers. And I mean that as no disrespect to the dreamers. I think, you're in a precarious position, and I will begrudgingly, as an American who's paid taxes, my whole life, say, you know what? Okay, we'll take care of this. As long as people are willing to draw that hard line and say no more, we cannot allow this to continue. This has got to be the last time. Will that happen? I doubt it. Because as we can see, the Democrats continually push far left. Look at this. Joe Biden is confronted over deportation record by immigrant rights protesters outside Las Vegas event. As campaign stresses, he'll perform better in more diverse states. Biden on Univision. Deporting 3 million was a big mistake. The protests outside of their events are because listen, if you bring in a bunch of illegal immigrants, if you let them come and stay, then of course they'll show up and protest your events and make you look bad. And then if you allow them to stay and then more come, it'll just keep happening. There needs to be a hard stop. I'm not convinced Democrats will do it. But I'll tell you what, man, you ask me why I'm politically homeless and why I won't vote for Trump is that Trump's curbed all immigration by around 70%. There's no compromise middle ground. And I don't know what you want from me. I'm talking to the Democrats. Because if you can't stand up and propose a sane, rational compromise, then don't be surprised when Trump wins and curbs all of the immigration, or 70% of it. Because I'll tell you what, it is not a sane policy to promise health care to non-citizens. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's not a sane policy to continually say that you will keep allowing non-citizens access to our resources to come to our country, to not deport them, to say deportation is a mistake, to say that, that we're just going to decriminalize border crossings. That's just not sane. And so you give moderate people a difficult choice. Accept the dissolution of our borders, or accept Trump, who is going to curb 70% of immigration. Trump wins in that regard. I don't know, man. Some of these issues are hard. There's no middle ground. There's no fence to sit on. So I have to say that, when I look at the Obama administration, I begrudgingly accept DACA. I do. And I think there are young people that can use our support. I think if you're a snooty jerk who's disrespectful and gloating at exploiting the system, then maybe we should consider your status. But these are people who aren't citizens. And so that means the American community has to decide what works for America. For the time being, Donald Trump represents those views that won. And so you get what you get. Democrats, if you don't get more moderate on this, you're going to lose. And guess what? They're not going to get more moderate. So whatever. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.